And we are now joined by the head coach of the LSU Tigers, Coach Brian Kelly. And Coach, I got to ask you now, when you first got to Baton Rouge, there were a lot of folks that had things to say about social media and the accent, and now 2 years in, 2 10-win seasons, 2 top 10 classes, and a Heisman Trophy winner. So are you keeping receipts? That was the first question I had to ask you.
Not really. I mean, a lot of that is good stories and stuff that you can laugh about. I still have a funny accent. I'm from Boston. It's gotten twisted across the coast. So, again, I think, more than anything else, they're really about, what we've done here and what we've done in a very short period of time in terms of building some stability back into LSU football. Now it's time to take that next step up. So that's really what I focus on, and don't spend much time thinking about some of the antics and the silliness that comes with it. If you make a mistake here or there, you kind of live with it and you move on.
Coach, you're a better man than me taking the high road there, because I think I would go back and find those tweets and say something. But anyway, that's why you're the head coach and I'm over here doing a podcast. When it comes to year 3 for y'all, you hear a lot of coaches talk about the evolution, especially when they first take a job of, okay, now it looks like my team. Do you feel like this is now a Brian Kelly brand LSU team?
Well, the standards and the culture feels so much more like what I'm used to. But that's usually what happens in year 3 for me. Everywhere I've been, the third year has been, really successful. So I think the third year here is feeling very comfortable in terms of the standards and the expectations and how everybody has really adapted to the style and the expectations. So again, you got to go do it on the field, and you do it with being successful on Saturdays, but the day-to-day really starts to feel like we're in a really good position.
And someone new to that day-to-day now is your new DC, Blake Baker, coming over from Mizzou. What made him the right fit for y'all in Baton Rouge?
Well, I think when you look at college football, it's, not only do you need to recruit, you need to engage. And I think, his ability to recruit and engage his players, and then obviously at the end of the day, have success with the guys that he's engaging on a day-to-day basis. In my limited exposure to him when I first came on, I was able to spend some time with him, and I really liked his ability to relate to the players. And Matt House is a smart football coach. He was dealt a very difficult situation here, and I needed somebody to come in and really build the confidence back in our football team. And I felt Blake carried himself that way, extremely confident in what he does and how he does it. And he engaged his players that way. So that made him the right fit for me.
And I know schematically a lot of folks watched that Missouri defense last year and how often they got after the quarterback. And so you start doing the math. You're like, okay, aggressive DC on paper. And then Harold Perkins is also still on your roster. Is there any thought process or any tinkering this offseason with how he might be utilized in 24?
Well, certainly we didn't maximize Harold last year. And that's not, again, a knock on Harold or the coaches, but the reality of it is he's an elite athlete that we have to get on track this year. So both Harold has got to play better and our coaches have to get him involved more. So that's an important piece of what we do in the spring. And certainly where he fits within our defensive structure is going to be job one for us. So again, I think that everybody that watched last year would say, that's a guy that needs to play at a higher level. And that starts with coaching and that starts with Harold really working hard in this offseason.
And then on the offensive side of the ball, taking over for Jaden Daniels, you got the gumbo gunslinger, Garrett Nussmeier. Coach, I love watching him play football and watching him push it downfield. What excites you about him in 2024?
I think more than anything else is his development. I mean, this is still a young man that is going to get better over time. I mean, he's going to get all the reps that he hasn't gotten. And we saw glimpses of Garrett Nussmeier with very few reps. And I think all of us collectively really liked what we saw. And so I think what's exciting for me is a guy that's really going to get a lot of the reps and is going to get better and better. We got a glimpse of it against Wisconsin, and as the game unfolded and he got more comfortable, he leads us on a 90+ yard drive at the end of the game. And I think there's more to come, and that's the exciting part.
And Coach, are you expecting any differences with the offense? I know you're obviously not giving away anything on the show, but just is there anything you're expecting with Joe Sloan now calling the plays for y'all?
Well, I mean, look, this is still player driven. Joe Sloan is going to do a great job, but he doesn't have Jaden Daniels. So that's the big difference, right? So, the zone read is not what, Garrett is not Jaden Daniels. So you're going to see an adjustment there. We're going to have to rely much more on a running game generated from the tailback position, not the running back position. I think you're going to see the tight ends much more involved in what we do. I think what we were really smart in doing is bringing in about 1,600 yards in reception yards with Xavion and CJ, and both of those guys are going to help us in the receiving core. But we lost a lot of yards in terms of reception, so we've got to make it up in other areas. So other guys are going to have to step up the running game, and not having a Jaden Daniels means you're going to have to find it in other areas. And I think it starts with a much more effective tailback oriented running game.
With that being said, is there a position group you're watching most closely this spring that you're looking to really take that next step forward to kind of help your team in 24?
Well, I think all eyes effectively are on the defense, right? I mean, that's where, we felt like we did not play up to the level necessary to be a playoff team, quite frankly. And our offense was, and our defense was not. And clearly all eyes are going to be on, our defense. We're young in some areas, but I think very talented. I think we've got a great staff that will utilize our players in the manner necessary for us to compete at the highest level. So I think all eyes are going to be on, what are we doing defensively? What's the improvement from, the defensive line? We've lost some really good players up front, to what's the maturation level of the back end of the defense where we played a lot of young players. Look, I think, it's easy to always move towards the offense, but I think they're going to be okay on offense. I think we've got enough weapons on offense. I think we've got an outstanding offensive line. And, when you're trying to put together an offense, if you start with the offensive line, which we return a veteran group, I think we're going to be okay there. I think that the focus has got to be on, this spring in terms of playing the kind of defense necessary to get into the SEC championship game.
Yeah, Coach, when that new college football video game comes out, I'm going right to LSU and using that offense. I mean, we're gonna score a lot of points. I'm excited about it. I'm really excited about it. I mean, when you talk about some of the guys you brought over from the transfer portal, college football is so crazy right now with the portal, with NIL. What is your compass or your philosophy in navigating this new age of college football?
Well, I mean, we're responsible for a number of different things. So it just depends on how you want to get to the end result. The end result is still about being successful as a football program. But along the way, you've got to recruit. You certainly have to develop your players. You have to engage them. But look, here's the delta in this. You have to retain them as well. If you want to be consistent as a football program, you have to bring all of those together and be successful. So if you recruit, if you develop, if you engage, if you retain and you're successful, you can do all the things that are out there. I choose to look at bringing in freshmen as the base of our program to do all those things and top it off with the transfer portal. Others look towards immediately bringing in as many transfers as possible and doing all those same things. I think some of those buckets are harder when we talk about retaining and engaging. And I think you have to do all those things. So it's just a philosophy, and my philosophy is to do it with more freshmen than anything else.
Yeah, Coach, in that same vein, we've talked about your success at LSU on the recruiting trail. Is there a certain edge for you or this staff when it comes to getting those kids to ultimately end up signing on the dotted line with LSU?
Well, I think having a clear vision as to, what's been good for you historically, and what's been good for LSU is the South, and in particular the state of Louisiana. And look, pull your base. I mean, at the end of the day, kids grow up wanting to be Tigers. They want to play here. I think there's only a couple of states in the country that have that kind of passion. I think Ohio and the Buckeyes, and I think Louisiana and the Tigers. And so it just makes sense that your focus is on the state, and then the contiguous southern states for us. We can go 3.5 hours to Houston, and we can hit all of the states down here, including Florida and Georgia. And if we do a really good job of staying focused on that, and then there's always going to be the flyers outside that footprint, but if you stay focused on that, you can have success. And so far, so good.
So far, so good, without question. Well, Coach, we really appreciate all your time. Hey, last thing I want to throw at you. Can we get big Will Campbell in a number 7 jersey? I see quarterbacks wearing 33 all over the country. Like, can we get him into a single-digit number 7? Is that something we can do this season?
I'm going to have to talk to our supervisor of officials. He's not too keen on these numbers and eligible receivers and covering them up. And if we throw a 7 on a tackle, I think that's they're going to have a whole new muscle operated on those officials to know who's eligible, who's not eligible. But he's such a great kid and such a great athlete. He keeps bugging. He wants one of those tackle eligible pass plays. So I got to figure out how to get him the foot.
Awesome. Well, we'll keep an eye on it. Coach, again, appreciate all your time, and can't wait to watch all good after the spring and then the fall.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, y'all. Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.